you actually have to turn in a video clip of the...
Well, we have to include the interview, so if we don't turn the video clip, we can always just get the audio from it and use it for like recording and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. You want to start, Joe?
Sure. So, what education did you need to do this?
Well, so I'm still a student right now. So I got my bachelor's with a biology degree with a minor in chemistry. So I graduated with that, and then now I'm working on a PhD, and that's what I'm doing here. So I'm a student, and I'm also working. So basically that's it. Yeah, I had to get a bachelor's, but eventually I want to be a professor and teach full time and have my own lab. So I need to have a PhD for that. So that's still a couple more years.
And so to be a professor, you have to get your PhD first?
Absolutely. And lots of times with a PhD, it's not enough. So you get your PhD, and then lots of times you have to do a postdoc, which is what we visited with Lillian. She's a postdoc, so she graduated with her PhD. Then you do a postdoc for 2 or 3 years, just getting more experience in the lab. And then once you have that, you're usually more competitive that you can get a job as a professor. Yeah.
What made you want to join, become a professor, or become a student to become a professor?
Right. Well, I kind of just as a young age, I've always been fascinated with science. And so like in high school when I was your guys' age, I loved the labs and things like that. I thought it was really cool to learn about the molecular level, the small, the things that are happening that we can't even see. So it started actually probably in high school when I first decided I really liked it. Was when I looked in the, did my first lab, looked through a microscope, saw, bacteria, things like that. I thought it was pretty sweet.
Are there any requirements you need to do to get into?
Yeah. So grad school is pretty tricky to get into, depending on where you want to go. So to come here, I had to graduate. I had to have my bachelor's degree, and then they, of course, want your grades from your bachelor's. So you had to have a good GPA. You also have to take the GRE, which is like a graduate record exam is what it stands for. So you have to take a standardized test to get into the school, and I actually had to take it twice because I didn't do well the first time. But I got okay grades, okay score the second time. So yeah, you have to have a good GPA, you have to have the GRE score, you have to have letters of recommendation, and then also experience. Like I was talking earlier about the internship that I did. So that's also huge. They want you to have experience in order to get in.
So what other classes did you take to work up to this?
Okay. So yeah, like I said, I was a biology major. So when I was working on that, I did lots of classes. Just your general biology. Also, I took microbiology and immunology. Then I did physiology, anatomy, things like that, as well as all of the chemistry-based, general chemistry, organic chemistry. It's lots of science, both biology and chemistry.
Did you have to take a lot of math classes?
I actually didn't, and that's one of the things I actually really liked about it, because I'm not very good at math. Like I'm okay at it, but I like the sciences more. So it was nice. I did have to take calculus, I guess, but it wasn't anything crazy advanced. So my brother's an engineer, and they have to do triple calculus, all sorts of variables, and so compared to that, it's not a whole lot of math, so it's nice.
Well, when you're here, what's your typical day like?
So typical day depends, because I'm also taking classes, and so on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I actually have classes that I go and I sit in. I'm a student, so I go and I have assignments and have tests and things like that. And so I have classes I go to. I also work as a TA, so I teach labs, and that's Mondays and Wednesdays. I go in, and so I come in and I have a class of about 25 students, and we talk about what we're going to be doing that day, and then we go into lab and do the lab for about 2 hours to 3 hours for each section. So I do that 3 times a week. So that's actually a big chunk of my day, big chunk of my week is I'm going and teaching labs, doing the labs, and then I also, I'm the teacher, so I grade the labs and keep, this is where this office, actually students come in if they have questions, and I help them with their questions, things like that. So actually, a lot of my time is spent with that. Probably half of the week I'm spent with the TA, where I'm preparing the lab or getting ready for next week or grading assignments or helping students prepare for the next test and things like that. So that's a big chunk, and then the rest of it is upstairs working in my lab where I do my individual research, trying to get the proteins to come together so it'll glow. And so I spend lots of time doing that. But the nice thing with research is lots of times you'll start an experiment and it takes some time. Just like the PCR, you get it running and it has to go for 2 hours, or you get your bacteria growing, you leave it overnight. So that's nice because I get something going, but then I can go and do some grading in between, or I can read research articles to try to understand more about the research that's being done. So.
Okay, and for now, like in grad school, and but also when you become a professor, how competitive is like the job area for this?
So it depends on which school you're applying to. There's some that are really hard to get into, but they're overall it's fairly competitive. There's actually more people than you would think that are into the research-based sciences, and it's pretty competitive. You have to have a good GPA, you have to have a good record. That's one of the hardest things about grad school is you're doing schoolwork, you're doing classes, but you also have to have really good research. So in order to get a PhD, like it's not a specific 4 years. Like in high school, you do freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. But in grad school, it's just however long it takes until you can get the information, the research that you need. So there's some people that graduate in 4 years. There's some people that are here 7 years, just because it's not working. The research isn't working, and so it takes longer. So it just depends on how long. But then it is competitive from there to get a job. So you have to have the research. That's what I was saying. It takes a lot of time. You have to be successful because you need to have publications. So you do research, you answer some questions, and then you write it up and submit it to a journal to be published. And so that's one of the biggest things when you're looking to be hired on as a professor. They want you to be published. You have to have publications that you've done. You have to be able to write your own grants and things like that. So,
yeah. So do you work with a bunch of people, or do you mostly work by yourself?
That's a great question. So most of the time it's very collaborative. So we work together, especially when it comes to sharing ideas. So yeah, science is very collaborative. So I'm working on something, upstairs we met Aaron. He's also working on a similar project, and so it's great because you can talk to him. He's actually a 4th year grad student, so he's done this a lot more than I have. So we talk all the time. I get his ideas, but I have my individual project that I'm working on. So it's very individual in that I'm responsible for the work that I'm doing, but it's very important to have people that I can collaborate with and talk to and get my questions answered. So it's a little bit of both. You're responsible for your own work, but at the same time your work wouldn't progress unless you had others that could help you out. So that's one of the things I do like a lot about this, is that it's so, like, I'm responsible for my own work, and so I kind of get to decide when I want to work. Does that make sense? Like, if something comes up and I have to run and go pick up my wife or do something like that, that's fine. It just means that I would have to come in sometime later on just to finish up an experiment, things like that. So I like having that flexibility and having charge of what I want to do, instead of having a boss that says you have to be here 8 to 5. If an experiment going on in the morning, I can come in at 9, and then maybe come back later and in the evening at 7 or 8 to just get the next experiment going. So it's very individual. You have to be motivated. You have to be self-motivated to get it done. But it is very collaborative as well. It's very important to be able to work together as a team.
And do you get paid as a grad student?
I do. So how it works, it's actually a great program. I get paid because of the rotations that I'm doing. They actually are paying for my tuition. So they pay for my tuition and school fees, which is a lot of money that they're paying for. And then because I'm a TA, so I'm working to teach the labs, I get a stipend on top of that. So I get paid once a month for teaching labs. So overall, like, if you were to look right now, because going to school is